morning. I'm Harriet Agbenyi. Thank you so much for joining me on the first edition of Business Morning for the week. We're live on Channels Television, your home for the news. Well, trading machines remain silent today as financial markets across the country remain closed following a two-day holiday declared by the federal government last week. So there'll be only 4 days of trade this week as markets resume tomorrow, Tuesday, April 18th. Last week saw several activities at the markets, especially the forex segment, where the central bank started offering shorter dated forward currency contracts to meet the demand of manufacturers and end users. We'll review the forex market in a bit and preview the forex markets for the week, that is. Now, Washington, the United States capital, will this week play host to thousands of government officials from over 170 countries, including Nigeria, top officials of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, civil society groups, as well as participants from the academia and private sectors for the 2017 annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank. The meetings, which will also include a series of seminars, will focus on the global economy, international development, and the world's financial markets. Channels Television will be on ground to bring you daily highlights of the meetings with our crew of Bosono Mofaye, Business News Editor, and Runke Raji, Channels Television Senior Correspondent. And barring any last-minute change, the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, is expected to be ready for inspection by Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority today. The Managing Director, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Saleh Dunoma, says if certified okay by the regulatory authority, the airport will open for flight operations on a scheduled date of April the 19th. This is from the Federal Ministry of Power Works and Housing and Aviation as well, showing a night view of the Abuja runway. The airport was temporarily closed to ensure that this particular runway was refurbished, and the federal government gave 6 weeks to do this, but unconfirmed reports say a nighttime rehabilitation is expected to begin on some parts of the long runway and other critical sections of the aerodrome between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. daily for the next 4 months. Meanwhile, indications have emerged that the new terminal at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, will be open for operation in the fourth quarter of the year. The terminal was to have become functional since 2016, but the opening date was postponed twice. The MMIA and the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airports are expected to be certified by the International Civil Aviation Organization by May and December this year. So let's talk the markets now, forex market that is. And Nigeria's central bank is expected to hold a treasury bills auction this week. Just before we get to the forex market, let's talk about treasury bills. I beg your pardon. So about 167.52 billion naira will be offered. 36.79 billion naira will be offered in the 91-day bill. 35 billion naira in the 182-day bill, and 95.73 billion naira in the 364-day paper. Last week, the treasury bills market remained pressured amid tight liquidity condition, with average yield rising by about 55 basis points week on week to 18.12%. The sell-off was most sizable at the short end of the curve. We'll be talking to Robert Omotunde, who's the head of research at AfriInvest, in just a bit to get his thoughts on the fixed income segment of the market. It is a holiday, but then we're still talking markets and the economy. And so Robert will be joining us in just a bit. So let's take a look at that forex market news now, as I've been talking about from the beginning of the program. The Central Bank of Nigeria is expected to raise US dollar supply to Bureau de change operators to $40,000 from $20,000. As initially announced, Naira funding was on April the 13th, and delivery is Tuesday, April 18th. That's tomorrow when the markets reopen. Now, last week, the regulator had disbursed $20,000 each to BDC operators in 2 tranches of $10,000. Now, also coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria, the regulator plans to open a new window to resume dollar sales on the spot market to clear foreign portfolio investors, dividends and other investments. Local currency was quoted at 300 naira 10 kobo to the dollar at the official window and 410 naira to a dollar at the black market. But now with the increased dollar sales to Bureau de Change operators, we will see a further gain in the naira at the black market. Well, we'll be talking to Aminu Gwadabe, who's the President Association of Bureau de Change operators, in just a bit. But also the central bank has increased the limit on banks' foreign currency borrowings to 125 of shareholders' fund after some lenders reached its regulatory limit owing to the recent fall in the naira. The new regulation replaces a 2014 rule capping foreign borrowings, including euro bonds, at 75% of shareholders' funds as Nigeria tries to manage widespread capital shortfalls at lenders due to a currency crisis and bad loans. And also, according to data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's website, as at April 12, we had the forex reserves at 30.41 billion naira. So things are looking quite good, and the Central Bank of Nigeria says it will continue to intervene in the FX market to improve liquidity. But if you notice in the last couple of weeks that the Central Bank has continued to intervene in the forex market, it's been to specific sectors of the economy that are expected to grow and, of course, create more jobs as well. So this week, quite a lot of activity is also expected in that segment of the market, and we'll start talking about the conversation in just a bit. But let's talk to some of the developments in the fixed income segment of the market. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, the Central Bank of Nigeria will this week on Wednesday hold a treasury bills auction about over 167 billion naira will be sold. But let's talk to Robert Omotunde, who is the head of research at AfriInvest, to get his thoughts on that segment of the market. Robert, good morning, and thank you so much for joining me on the program. Well, Robert, talk to us about how the market has been like, particularly the treasury bills and the bonds market. We noticed that last